Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on Savitri with our beloved Ranga. We are on page 20, Book 1, the Book of Beginnings, Canto 2, The Issue. I will begin with the line, a magic leverage. A magic leverage suddenly is caught that moves the veiled ineffable's timeless will. A prayer, a master act, a king idea can link man's strength to a transcendent force. Then miracle is made the common rule. One mighty deed can change the course of things. A lonely thought becomes omnipotent. All now seems nature's massed machinery, an endless servitude to material rule, and long determination's rigid chain. Her firm and changeless habits aping law, her empire of unconscious, deft device, annul the claim of man's free human will. He too is a machine amid machines. A piston brain pumps out the shapes of thought. A beating heart cuts out emotions' modes. An insentient energy fabricates a soul. Or the figure of the world reveals the signs of a tide chance, repeating her old steps in circles around matter's binding posts. A random series of inept events to which reason lends elusive sense is here. Or the empiric life's instinctive search, or a vast, ignorant mind's colossal work. But wisdom comes, and vision grows within. Then nature's instrument crowns himself her king. He feels his witnessing self and conscious power. His soul steps back and sees the light supreme. A Godhead stands behind the brute machine. This truth broke in a triumph of fire. A victory was won for God in man. The deity revealed its hidden face. The great world mother now in her arose. A living choice reversed fate's cold, dead turn, affirmed the spirit's tread on circumstance, pressed back the senseless, dire, revolving wheel, and stopped the mute march of necessity. A flaming warrior from the eternal peaks, empowered to force the door denied and closed, smote from death's visage its dumb absolute, and burst the bounds of consciousness and time.
So, the canto is the issue. What does Savitri have to do? She has to change the physical laws here and annul death itself. This is her work that she has to do. We can. He has given very clearly what the issue is. The spirit must triumph over matter. I am taking the lines from him only. Negate the past to realize the future. Cancel karma Immortality must abolish death. Faith must destroy falsehood. Truth must destroy falsehood. Perfection must establish itself in matter. This is the whole issue, what Savitri has to achieve. Okay? So she is now she is the great world mother herself, has descended into the physical world to do this work. But when she has come down here, as in every human being, she has completely imprisoned herself in a body-mind life. This is the description is given here. The whole of nature is a machine. It's senseless, no consciousness, and everything is mechanical. But she has come down into that. But Srivda says that here was no fabric of ordinary type. Okay, I've forgotten the exact line, but it says
here was no fabric of ordinary make.
Of ordinary make. So the divinity is there in her, and that has to establish itself. So when she is faced with the prospect of Satyavan's death, she rises and her humanity is now shed, and she puts on her divine nature. And she confronts death, and she is able to do it. None of us can do that, but she is able to do that. That's the work that she has to do in the physical world. That's a miracle that he is talking about. Okay.
It's interesting, though, that this is a flashback.
Yes.
Because Savitri doesn't want to do this at first. She wants to follow Satyavan with Sati or whatever, and she refuses at first.
Yes, absolutely. 3 times she refuses.
Yes.
But no, I don't want to have anything to do with the earth. Okay. So, we begin with a magic leverage suddenly is caught. So, she sheds her humanity and puts on the divine nature. So, that's what he's talking about. A magic leverage suddenly is caught that moves the veiled ineffable's timeless will. The will of the divine, she is forcing it to become a reality here that moves the veiled ineffable's timeless will.
Capital I.
Yeah.
Ineffable.
Ineffable. Ineffable, you can't speak about it. Transcendent. And that will now, she is able to move that. And how? A prayer, a master act, a king idea can link man's strength to a transcendent force. Then miracle is made the common rule. Now, there's a lot to be said about miracle, but first of all, this idea certainly that the divine can respond certainly when there's a master act, a prayer, a master act, a king idea. This is also not at all unusual even in a yogic life. Sometimes under the stress of a deep emotion, suddenly a change can come. This is felt by many yogis. When you're faced with a certain situation like death, I know of some cases in the ashram also where that happened. A person had to face death, and instead of mourning and crying and becoming sorrowful, she suddenly had the experience of the self. She became absolutely calm, quiet, and peaceful. So, a difficult situation, and the divinity in man rises up and faces that. So, that's a miracle that he's talking about.
I had this experience with Arvind Maheshwari's sister. I would go and visit her regularly. She was in great pain, but I would sing Om to her, and she would be singing it with me. And one night, I felt she was going to leave, and I chanted Sri Aurobindo Mother 3 times, and Om, and Aurobindo Basu was with me. And he said, "You did very well, but you must say at the end, Brahman." And he went to her and he did that. And I said, "Will she leave soon?" He said, "Yes, in some hours."
So that's it. Savitri is now determined to fight death and claim back Satyavan. So, then miracle is made the common rule. Now, this miracle, there is no such thing as a miracle, Sri Aurobindo says. But if you are used to certain laws in the physical world and suddenly those laws change because the conditions have changed, then you feel that it's a miracle. But it's not a miracle. It is that you don't see the past of that movement which is there. You are only seeing the result and you think it's a miracle. But there is a working behind which is according to law. Okay? Even the divine grace acts according to laws.
But he does use miracle in a very beautiful way in that line, all's miracle here, and can by miracle change.
Yes. And what he means by that is also, if you look very carefully, you will see really miraculous things happening. He himself gives the example in Life Divine about oxygen and hydrogen combining and gives you water. How on earth does that happen? There is no explanation at all. Okay? So this is the miracle that he's talking about. Everything is a miracle. Out of mud comes out a beautiful lily. How does it happen? Who can manufacture a beautiful flower from mud? So it's a miracle, but we don't think of it that way. But everything is a miracle here. All is miracle here. That's what it means. A prayer, a master act, a king idea can link man's strength to a transcendent force. The ineffable, and he's using the word here, transcendent, that which is above. Timeless will. The one which is transcendent is timeless. The divine will can be described as ineffable, timeless will.
And he capitalizes force.
Yes.
That power.
Yeah. That which cannot be put into words. A prayer, a master act, a king idea can link man's strength to a transcendent force. Then miracle is made the common rule. Okay? One mighty deed can change the course of things. A lonely thought becomes omnipotent. All now seems nature's massed machinery. Now he is describing the fixity of fate and fixity of laws in the physical world. Nature is a machine. It just works according to, there is no freedom here. This all works according to laws. Okay, so when those laws are suspended, then the miracle, you seem to have a miracle. There's something there again, we'll see about that. It's very interesting what he's saying. All now seems nature's massed machinery. Note the alliteration. Then miracle is made the common rule. And now he is repeating again. All now seems nature's massed machinery. Again, there's an alliteration there. An endless servitude to material rule. There you are. So, material rule is servitude. It is a slavery. There is no freedom at all in the physical world. And long determinations, rigid chain. The word rigid chain again brings you back to the sense of causality. Everything is linked and there is a chain. This happens. Karma also is of the same. You can call it karma, you can call it also causality. Rigid chain. There is no fixity. It is so fixed, we have discussed this earlier, that you can even say tomorrow at what time the moon is going to rise. You can say from here, 100 years from now, what will happen. If when the comet is going to come back, you can forecast. 75 years afterwards. Halley's comet comes back every 75 years. You can accurately forecast. Why? Because there is a rigid law. It follows a rigid law.
Can we use the word fate also with karma?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Fate, karma, causality, all these are the... Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he will tell you a little later that it can be changed.
Yeah.
So, an endless servitude to material rule and long determinations, rigid chain. Note the word determination. Determination means something fixed, something without change. Indeterminate is something which is, you don't know what, like, it can change. So determination is no change, fixity. Okay. Her is nature. Her firm and changeless habits, aping law. Now that's a very interesting phrase. Nature's habits are aping law. Okay. What does he mean by that? It's very interesting. Why is he saying aping law? Because nature's laws are really not laws, they are habits. Why can we say that? With 2-3 examples will make it very clear. The law of gravitation is absolutely fixed, everybody will say. But you change the conditions and the law disappears. So it is pretending to be a law. Aping, copying, pretending to be. It's not really a fixed law. Change the conditions and the law changes. You know, gravitation can be conquered by several ways. First of all, levitation. Secondly, here there is gravitation. Go 100 miles into space, no gravitation. Even below, if you go down to take the temperature down to nearly zero, there is no gravitation there. When you make something cold and bring it down, the law of gravitation is conquered.
So the changeless habits.
That's right. That's what he's saying. And that habit, you feel that it's a law. It is pretending to be a law. Okay. Her empire of unconscious deft device. Now, what does he mean by that? Here he just uses 3 words. Unconscious deft device. Deft device is, again, you see that everything seems to be unintelligent, mechanical. But if you see very carefully, you will see that there is a consciousness behind which is pushing the apparently unconscious act. The instinct of animals is a very good example. Okay, the bird does not know why it is doing it, but it will migrate 5,000 miles to escape the severe winter. So there is a consciousness telling it, you go there, there is danger here. The other example of this deft device is, there are many examples which sometimes himself gives. The building of a spider, the web, okay, it has to capture insects to eat. So what does it do? It builds but it seems to be a mechanical act, but there is an intention behind. So that's a deft device.
Deft device, yes.
Also, you can see also plants. Okay, they seem to grow very naturally, but no, they are following a purpose. They want light, so they go up, and they want water, so they go down. The roots actually can search for water. I told you a very interesting thing which I saw in the press. We had a tree and we had a water tank, a big water tank, and that tree sent out its roots into the water tank. And how can it do that? Because it's a concrete wall. So it made its roots hair-like thin and then pierced it. Is that intelligence? And yet you feel that there is no intelligence. That's what it means by deft device. So, unconscious deft device annul the claim of man's free human will. So all this rigidity of law seems to annul the claim of man's free human will. Man thinks that he has will, but actually that what he feels is freedom is not a freedom.
He's an automaton.
Huh?
An automaton.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because he has an ego, he thinks that he has a free will. He too is a machine amid machines. So, when Simba is saying that, he is not talking of the soul, he is talking of the body-mind life. The body-mind life is a perfect machine. We don't think of it as a machine, but we can conceive of the heart being a machine, the lungs and the kidneys being a machine. The kidneys are working fantastically. They remove all the poisonous things and send the blood back into, they remove all the lungs also are doing that. They remove the carbon dioxide and give oxygen to the blood and circulates again. There's so much of intention. It seems to be mechanical, but there is intention behind. That's what he's meaning. So he says, he too is a machine among machines. And then Srimada's description of what the machine is. A piston brain pumps out the shapes of thought. What an image. And he continues the image, okay? A beating heart cuts out emotions' modes. The heart is beating, but behind that it can also create emotions. Okay? So, an insentient energy fabricates a soul. Out of the body mind life, there's a soul hiding behind. So, it seems to fabricate a soul. Okay?
But I think it's some humor here also.
Yes.
Quite a bit of humor.
Yes. There's a humor. Irony is there.
Very.
What man believes is not true. That's what he seems to be saying. Okay. Or the figure of the world reveals the signs of a tied chance repeating her old steps. So the old steps is the causality. So there's a mechanicalness. What happened before is being repeated. In Life Divine, he says very clearly, nature's movements are all rhythm. He uses the word rhythm. And if you see carefully, yes, there is a rhythm in everything. Every movement in the physical world is rhythm. The sun, the earth is going around the sun in rhythm. The day and night is rhythm. The seasons come in rhythm. Even your heart is beating in rhythm. Everything. Man comes into the human body and goes back again and comes back again. There's again a rhythm there. So he is saying, tied chance, repeating her old steps. Now he has used a very interesting word, tied chance. Later on he will tell you what the tide is, binding posts in the next line. So it's an image. You are actually tied to the binding post like an animal. You can't do anything about it. In synthesis also he uses another interesting. He says a man is yoked and whipped and driven.
Yes.
He uses that image. Here he is not using the full image, but he's just giving you a chance.
The binding posts are very clear.
Yes. The animal is tied to a binding post and there's no chance. There's no freedom at all. A tied chance repeating her old steps in circles around matter's binding posts. Matter is the binding post. It fixes you.
It reminds me of the bullocks going around and around,
right.
threshing the grain.
That's right. That's why he's saying circling. Okay. And that also gives you the idea of repetition.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is, if you look at every detail, the poetry is the image is so clear. A random series of inept events. Inept means absurd, silly, out of place. So when you look at things, you feel that what is the purpose of all this going on? There doesn't seem to be any meaning in it. The earth is going on round and round and round. What is the intention? What is the purpose? It doesn't seem to have any purpose. Inept. He's saying absurd, silly, out of place. That's what it means. Inept. Not inept. Inept.
No, inept. Yes.
Inapt is not capable.
Or not inclined to.
Yeah. So, to which reason lends elusive sense is here. A random series of events is here. And what is that? Reason gives elusive sense. It gives a sense, but actually it's an illusion. Whatever you see here seems to make sense to reason, but it is actually an illusion. Okay? Or the empiric life's instinctive search. The word empiric is again based on experience and experiment. Okay? So, or the empiric life's instinctive search, or a vast ignorant mind's colossal work. The ignorant mind is not limited only to the human being, the human mind. It's there everywhere. There's a whole plane of mind consciousness. But wisdom comes. So all this is there. There is a rigidity and there is a fixity of law. But it can be broken. And that's exactly what Savitri is doing with her master act. She is being able to do that. but wisdom comes and vision grows within. Okay. Then nature's instrument crowns himself her king. Now this is a very interesting image what he's saying. Nature's instrument crowns himself her king. In the physical world, nature is completely controlling the soul. You are not aware of your soul, normally. Those who are aware, it's a huge progress. That's a miracle. But you are not aware of it. So, nature is controlling you. But nature's instruments are body, mind, life. It is Prakriti. Now, when there is an awakening and your soul comes out, the nature turns and crowns himself her king. So, nature's instruments, okay, crowns himself her king. The body and mind and life are no more master of the soul. The soul becomes master of the body, mind, life. Purusha becomes the king. That's what he's saying.
So first, we were nature's instruments.
Yes, that's right. Then nature's instruments. So, and this, very interestingly, he says also in the synthesis. I'll quote from the synthesis. In the conscious individual, Prakriti turns back to perceive Purusha. Okay? Turns back. Now that's very interesting. He uses in Savitri, turn back. You go back to Plato's image of the cave, if you remember. He explains the fixity of law and the illusion of the world. Plato's image is men are there in a cave and they are facing the back of the cave. There is a sun out there and the shadows are there on the back of the, and you think that they are the real thing, but they are only shadows. But when man turns round, he is not imprisoned in his soul anymore. The soul comes out and looks at the sun, then he realizes that these are all only shadow forms. The whole physical world is only forms, are only shadows. They are illusions, not real. Okay, so that's what he's saying. In the conscious individual, Prakriti turns back to perceive Purusha. So this is what he's meaning here. Nature's instrument crowns himself her king. The soul becomes the king of the body, mind, life. He feels his witnessing self. Now he is describing the experience of the self. He feels his witnessing self and conscious power. His soul steps back and sees the light supreme. Note the word steps back. He is stepping back from what? From identification with body, mind, life.
Witness self.
Yeah. He becomes a witness.
Self.
That's right. A Godhead stands behind the brute machine. The Godhead can be the self, it can also be the psychic being. Okay. Standing behind the brute machine. Which is the brute machine? Individually, body, mind, life. Nature, matter, life and mind. In the universe. This truth broke in a triumph of fire. So this is what Savitri is realizing. This truth that the Godhead is there within broke in a triumph of fire. Now, I just mentioned one interesting thing. Srimdo's style of prose. He has this habit of repeating two words. Very few people do that.
In.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
This truth broke in a triumph of fire. He also uses that. The word that also he uses two times.
I think it's in synthesis. All that is
Yes.
he.
So three words. Is, that and this in he is using here. I'll give you an example of that, okay? It is true that he did not want. It is true that is false. It is true that is false.
Yes.
Okay? So that, in, is. Nobody does this. But Srimda is habit of doing this. It's interesting. It's a feature of his prose.
In fact, the dictionary considers it wrong and highlights it.
Absolutely. The autocorrect.
Yeah, autocorrect.
The autocorrect does all sorts of things. So, a victory was won for God in man. The deity revealed its hidden face. So Savitri now has realized her divine self, and it has revealed its hidden face. And who is that? Savitri is the great world mother. She is the divine mother herself. The great world mother now in her arose. The divine mother became, in her embodiment, she is now the divine mother herself. A living choice reversed fate's cold, dead turn. Fate's cold, dead turn, 4 words. Again, he is referring to nature. So that was reversed. A living choice, not mechanical, it is a living choice. Reversed fate's cold, dead turn. Affirmed the spirit's tread on circumstance. Circumstance, fixed conditions in the physical world. So the spirit is now changing things in the physical world. The rigidities of the physical world are being changed. Pressed back the senseless, dire, revolving wheel. Note the word revolving wheel connected to brute machine. It's a revolving wheel. He has also said old steps, repetition, rhythm. All these ideas are being repeated. And stopped the mute march of necessity. Necessity again, the determination, the fixity of laws in the physical world. Necessity. So, the laws of nature are reversed. So, he is just giving you a hint what Savitri is going to do. Change the law of death here.
And we see this wheel occurring in many, many different religions and faiths. The Negro people, they were called Negro at that time, saw this wheel in the sky, this great wheel. And they said the great wheel turned, the little wheel turned by the hand of man, the great wheel turned by the gods. So the idea of the wheel is very important in many faiths.
The mechanical movement is the wheel. The whole cosmos is built on a rhythmic pattern and go on repeating. So that's a wheel. So, a flaming warrior from the eternal peaks, empowered to force the door denied and closed. Now, that's very reminiscent of the door which mother broke.
Yes.
Okay? So, empowered to force the door denied and closed.
The flaming warrior?
Yeah.
Mother?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
So, Savitri is a biographical description, is a interpretation of mother's life. There is no doubt about it. Okay. But not Satyavan. Satyavan is not Srimdo.
Right.
Srimdo is more Ashwapati.
Yes.
Okay. A flaming warrior from the eternal peaks, empowered to force the door denied and closed, smote from death's visage its dumb absolute. So, death is being conquered and bursts the bounds of consciousness and time. So, this is what Savitri is going to do. And she has done it already here. He has just given you a hint. But the whole description will come 200, 300 pages later on.
Yeah.
So, this is the canto, the issue. What is the issue? Savitri is the Divine Mother. She comes down and puts on a human body-mind life, but she rises and conquers the rigidities of the physical world and conquers death. This is what she has to do. Now there is a flashback. So this is the end. He has given you a hint, which he will tell you later on. How does Savitri is born? How is she born? So that we come to the next canto 3, the yoga of the king, the yoga of the soul's release. So this is all Sri Aurobindo's experiences. It goes on. He will tell you all about the little life, the greater life, then the mind, and all these. It's a very good study for psychologists, yoga psychology, And a lot of the whole thing is there. It is described in great detail. Beautiful description of all the parts of the being. So that's the yoga of the king.
A world's desire compelled her mortal birth. One in the front of the immemorial quest, protagonist of the mysterious play, in which the unknown pursues himself through forms, and limits his eternity by the hours, and the blind void struggles to live and see, a thinker and toiler in the ideal's air, brought down to earth's dumb need her radiant power. His was a spirit that stooped from larger spheres into our province of ephemeral sight, a colonist from immortality. A pointing beam on earth's uncertain roads, his birth held up a symbol and a sign. His human self, like a translucent cloak, covered the all-wise who leads the unseeing world. Affiliated to cosmic space and time, and paying here God's debt to earth and man, a greater sonship was his divine right. Although consenting to mortal ignorance, his knowledge shared the light ineffable. I'll stop there.
To understand this passage, you have to remember he's talking about the king. He has not said it's Ashwapati, but later on he will tell you it is Ashwapati. So, the yoga of the king, the yoga of the soul's release. Now, the first sentence itself is a very interesting one. A world's desire compelled her mortal birth. Okay.
And it's the only sentence where he talks about her. For many, many lines, he will talk about Ashwapati.
Yeah, that's right.
And it always, it's so interesting to me
That's
because this desire of the world has compelled the birth of the Divine Mother.
That's right. A world's desire compelled her mortal birth. The earth felt the need and called, and then there's a response. So this is very interesting because he says that in many other places also. Answering earth's yearning and her cry for bliss. This is in Book 4, Canto 1. And he, in the synthesis, he says, the same idea is there. He says that if the bhakta yearns for the divine also yearns for the bhakta. So, there's a reflection of that in this one. A world's desire compelled her birth. So, the world is wanting the divine to come down here and change the world of suffering and pain and sorrow. And she comes down. So,
but the question that many ask is the world ready?
So, when the world is ready, it asks for it. So, the world means not the full world, but some part of it, it can be. And so, there is an individual evolution. This sentence can apply to both the individual evolution as well as the earth evolution. The individual evolution is much faster and the response is much quicker. But the earth evolution is very slow. And there has to be a sufficiently powerful world's desire. And that is the reason why Sri Aurobindo wanted a group. One man's liberation is not enough to make changes in the physical world. But if there is a group of people, the desire will become much stronger and it will call down the force much easier. That's why he wanted, in the beginning of his, in Pondicherry, he wanted 100 men.
Then he asked for 12.
Then he asked for 12 and finally he found nobody ready. And
I
he
think
had to
Mother
do-
said that he had only one or something.
and he had to do the work himself. That is the reason why he has built this Srivamsa ashram. Mother has built actually, and Auroville. The whole idea is that there must be a group. The desire of the world must be in a group form, not an individual weak one. It has to be strong. So, a world desire compelled. It forces the divine to take action. If in the synthesis he uses the word Bhagavan. If the Bhakta yearns for the Bhagavan, Bhagavan also yearns for the Bhakta. So if there's always a response from there. This is to be understood not in the sense of a commercial deal. You want me, so okay, I also will give you what you want. It's not like that. When you are ready, you open yourself. And when you open yourself, that light which is there will automatically come into you. So that's what is meant by that line. Okay, so one in the front of the immemorial quest. What is the immemorial quest? The eternal search for God. This is the immemorial quest. It has been there right from the beginning. In fact, in Life Divine, right in the beginning he says that. From the earliest of times, in man's awakened consciousness, he has always thought of thinking of God. So that's what is meaning. One in the front of the immemorial quest, protagonist of the mysterious play. So he is the hero. Protagonist is the main character of a play.
And it's Sri Aurobindo.
Yeah. And
it
in
must
fact,
be Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
The whole thing.
Yes. Protagonist of the mysterious play. What is this mysterious play? The Leela in the physical world. In fact, the word protagonist is usually used for a play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an image again.
The leading character.
Yes, the leading character. The leading character in a play or a story. Champion of a cause. That's what a protagonist. The mysterious play. The mysterious play, what is this world all about? It's a mystery, but it's a play. So, in which the unknown pursues himself through forms. Now that's very interesting. The divine comes down here and starts looking for himself again through all the forms. He plunges into the darkness and starts going back to the darkness in spite of his having created all these obstacles. It's a game he's playing with himself. Okay, so that's what he's saying. Unknown pursues himself through forms. What are the forms? Body, mind, life, all the physical world.
Could also be animal.
Yes, absolutely. Why animal? You go down to the stones, atoms.
Exactly.
The divine presence is there even in the atom.
Yes.
Okay, so and limits his eternity by the hours. Now, what is the hour? The hour is time, and time is here only in the physical world. So when he says hours, he means in the physical world. Eternity. He is outside time, but he removes his eternity and comes down into the transience of the world. That's what it's meaning. And the blind void struggles to live and see. The blind void, the inconscient. So it is slowly waking up and struggling to live and see, which is described very well in Canto 1. He has described how the divine is trying to come out of the prison. So he is repeating that idea here. And the blind void, the inconscient, struggles to live and see. To live, the animals when they come in, it's a living. And seeing, when the mind starts seeing the truth. So that's what he's saying. Now his description of the protagonist, the king. A thinker and toiler in the ideal's air. The ideal, Srivamsa uses the word for the spiritual planes of consciousness. Higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, overmind. This is the ideal. The level 1 is the physical world. Level 2 is the ideal planes. He uses that word in that sense. Brought down to earth's dumb need, her radiant power. So, a thinker and toiler was able to do that. Brought down to earth's dumb need her radiant power. His was a spirit, all this description of Ashwati. His was a spirit that stooped from larger spheres. So he has come down from there. Sometimes a human being, he is not talking of human beings here. A human being develops slowly and goes. But sometimes typal beings from higher worlds take birth here. So that's what is meaning here. His was a spirit that stooped from larger spheres. His native place is in the larger spheres, but he has come down here. This can happen. Beings which are immortal in the higher planes of consciousness sometimes take birth. Shelley is one such case. Shelley is not an evolutionary being. Srivendra says that.
Yeah.
But he comes down into the physical world for evolution.
And he said his poetry had nothing of the overmind,
Yeah.
but the most beautiful, pure poetry in all of literature. Extraordinary.
Psychic. So his was a spirit that stooped from larger spheres into our province of ephemeral light, sight. So ephemeral, transient, that which moves, that is no fixity. Now, again the description of him. He is a toiler, he is a protagonist, he is a colonist from immortality. Note that, very interesting.
Yeah.
He is not of the earth. He is a colonist. He lives there. His native place is there. But he's come down here into the physical world as a colonist. It's a very interesting image.
Yes.
This is not his home. His home is there. But he has come down here. A pointing beam on earth's uncertain roads. He is a pointing beam, a colonist who is a pointing beam on earth's uncertain roads. All avatars are pointing beams on earth's uncertain roads. His birth held up a symbol and a sign. His human self, like a translucent cloak, covered the all-wise who leads the unseeing world. So the all-wise, he is all-wise, he is a colonist who has come down from above, but his nature, human self, body, mind, life, but it's like a translucent cloak. It's not a thick cloak, it's a translucent cloak. Those who have the sight to see can understand that here is no ordinary person. He is someone quite different from a normal human being.
Basu told me that when he was laid out, not only he was golden, the whole courtyard was filled with gold.
Yeah. Translucent cloak covered the all-wise who leads the unseeing world. Now, affiliated to cosmic space and time and paying here God's debt to earth and man. So, it's very interesting. He uses this image again and again. Man has to get back to the divine nature, but God also has to, he has a debt to pay here. He has to give divinity back to human beings.
And has to take human birth to do it.
That's right. So, a greater sonship was his divine right. He has used the word sonship here. It's using again the Christian, the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost. So the individual soul is the Son. So the greater sonship, not an ordinary sonship, but a greater sonship was his divine right. In other words, he is a colonist from on top. He is not an evolutionary being. He has come from up. Okay. His knowledge shared the light ineffable. So, although consenting to mortal ignorance, his knowledge shared the light ineffable. he was able to, although he has come down into the physical world on purpose, but he has knowledge of the light. We stop
Thank you
here
for
today.
that. Yes. Namaste all.